Corey Tulaba, No Ceilings NBA. I'm here with my guy, Koby Brea, 4-year Dayton Flyer. Finished up his career with the Kentucky Wildcats. Maybe you've heard of them. Koby, appreciate you joining me, man.
Appreciate you allowing me to be here, man.
Yeah, man. We just got done watching you work out, shooting the crap out of the ball, showing off some bunnies, working on some ball handling, watching some film, and that's what we're gonna be doing here today. So before we get started though, we're gonna call this Scout's Honor. And what I want you to do is give me the honest scouting report on your game. I want the strengths, I want the things that you've been working on for improvement areas, the whole thing, honest from the man himself.
Yeah, I'm gonna say some strengths is probably my basketball IQ for sure. I'll put that at 1. I think I'm very smart on the court, pretty low risk, you know, and I don't like taking a lot of risks. You know, I'm not trying to get turnovers and make the wrong decisions. I stick to my strengths, and I know what I'm good at. I feel like I'm a really good playmaker, and obviously, you know, I'm a really good shooter in every way possible. I feel like, you know, I'm a good spot-up shooter, off the bounce, off the move. So just trying to diversify that as much as possible throughout this process. My defense, something that I'm growing and getting better at. Off-ball shots, which is also another thing I've been working on. That it's also a strength, but, you know, just making sure that both sides are equal. So I've been working a lot on going towards my right side, which is something that, you know, I struggled with a little bit in the past.
And you know what? I'm gonna push back a little bit on the risk thing, because, you know, we've talked a bit about it a little bit. I think one of the most underrated parts of your game is your passing, and I don't think you're just making, you know, a one more pass. Like, I think you got some shit to you as a passer sometimes.
Sure,
you know,
sure.
you show you bust it out every now and then. So, you know, I think that you're right in that you make a lot of smart decisions, right? And you don't turn the ball over. I think 105 turnovers over the span of your entire career. So the decision making is definitely a plus. But yeah, man, I'm excited to get into this film and break it down, show those strengths, show the areas of improvement on both sides of the ball. So let's start it out. I mean, first thing, anybody who has watched you before knows that you can shoot the rock, but there are levels to shooting. There are guys who can shoot, and then there are shooters, right? You are a all caps shooter. So take me through this play against Missouri. I mean, not everybody can let it fly from here. So take me through your decision making here.
Yeah, so, you know, I'm just coming off the handoff, and a lot of times, you know, teams are gonna choose to fight over, and that's what he did in this case. But, you know, I was able to get him off me a little bit, so kind of forced a switch. And once I see that the 5 is on me, it's just a game of decisions now. So now I'm just trying to see the floor as much as possible, whether it's to drive by him and try to make a play for somebody else or for myself. But in this scenario, I'm seeing that, you know, he's kind of laying back a little bit, and, you know, he's kind of playing it safe. So I feel like 10 times out of 10 times, I got to make you pay for that.
That's too much room, right?
Yeah,
but
that's too much.
Most guys can't shoot from there. So do you think defenders sometimes, like, they're just like, I'm just gonna play back because he's not shooting it from this a logo.
I think it catches them off guard, and I feel like that's why it's important as a shooter to work on your deep range, because a lot of times, you know, he's still playing me above the 3-point line, which is what a lot of people are gonna do, but that shot isn't always gonna be there. Obviously, you know, they're gonna put a big emphasis on, you know, staying above the 3-point line and taking the shot away, but if you're somebody that can space the floor that much, then I feel like it's a plus.
100%. And, you know, this is not a one-time thing. Like, you really, you really do it out here. You got that real logo range. So, and the thing is, like, you can kind of get it loose off the bounce too, right? I mean, look, the SEC logo, it's a big logo, but it's a big logo, but that's real deal. What do you think that does for your team and the offense in general? You know, we've seen how important shooting is. We've seen guys like Steph, Trey, you know, these guys who extend their range out. What does that do for the offense?
It opens things up. It opens things up because now the defense, you know, they have to guard a bigger amount of space. And obviously for me, I'm bringing out, you know, rim protector and stuff like that. And so anytime I'm able to drive by them, I'm just able to make plays for other people. And, you know, you're basically taking out one defender out of the whole equation. So now you're kind of playing 4-on-4 or 5-on-4, you know, when I get by him. So it's just about reading the floor and, you know, reading who's in front of me and what I can do against them.
Now, in this clip in particular, you watch this back at all? You think coach get on you at all? Like, hey, like Amari got him, you better make that shot. Like Amari's got, was that Phylon on him right there?
I feel like coach trusted me a lot to, you know, make the right decisions. A lot of time I would read that and see, okay, Amari has a smaller guy on him, but I just still feel like, you know, if I have that much space, I think it's a good shot, and I feel like my teammates and my coaches think the same thing.
And man, you've shot, I think, 400 threes over the last 2 seasons, and you've shot 47.5% on those. So, yeah, I think that's a pretty good shot, right?
Yeah.
Let's let this one run through. Take me through this one now. We're kind of moving off from the logo range, and how you operate as a mover off the ball to free yourself up.
Yeah, it's something extremely important, especially as a shooter. Something I've worked out throughout my year at Kentucky, and something I'm still working on a lot now. Just making sure that I can move it off the ball. You know, you see all the greats do it, whether it's Curry, Clay, Duncan Robinson, all those dudes, you know, they're able to free themselves up. And so as a shooter, you know, you got to be well conditioned. You got to, you know, read the defense and use your hands, just anything possible. So here it's just, you know, he wasn't being too physical with me. He kind of laid back on me, so I just gave him a couple fakes, try to, you know, get him off and coming off strong and fast for the handoff. And once I see that he's kind of behind a little bit, I know every defender is thinking the same thing. You know, I can't let him shoot. So their first thought is immediately to jump. And that's when, you know, you just give him a little head fake, let him go by, and then you go up.
Yeah, that's really crafty because, you know, we pause it right here. You know, he sees that's too much room, right?
That one dribble right there, that's kind of just like me letting the play develop, seeing if the big is going to come up and I might have a pocket pass, or if he's going to stay back and my guy's going to come. So just those like little dribbles that may seem like nothing are actually extremely important.
Yeah, and then he's got to fly out at you. And Illinois, like, they really just kind of trusted their guards to get over. They played in that drop, right? Somebody like you, that's easy money operating right there. Playing through this one here now, again, coming off movement. You know, I know these are actions, you know, you're working on, but there's a difference, right, in your footwork depending on what side of the court you're on. And I think a lot of shooters who are righties struggle to get themselves set, right? You know, as they're kind of getting into their shot, and when there's so little time that you have to get your shot off, because these guys are good, and at the next level, that time is going to be even less, right? How important is that footwork?
It's everything. It's everything for a shooter, especially like I talked about earlier. So this is a side that, you know, I had to make a big jump in, especially in my year at Kentucky, and especially now, you know, just understanding that right side, like you said, it's always harder for a shooter. So making sure that I find different ways to get my feet set, whether it's 1-2 or hopping into it. But at the end of the day, it all comes down to, you know, what you're doing to free yourself. So I feel like here, I did a good job of reading. He top blocked me, which here, you know, I have 2 options to come off to the top or come off to the corner. And once I see the top block, give him one little jab, make him look, and then I'm coming off fast. So like you said, the next level is going to be faster, longer defenders, and you got to find ways to make it efficient and fast.
Now you mentioned like Steph, you mentioned Clay. Who are like your favorite shooters of all time? Doesn't have to be from this generation. Could be guys you watch growing up.
Well, obviously, you know, definitely Curry.
Definitely Steph. Oh, he's the GOAT, right? I almost feel like we got to take him out of the conversation. Like, you can't choose Steph, right?
He's the man that made me a shooter. I'm not gonna lie. So I always give him his credit.
Okay, so what was it about him as a shooter outside of, like, all right, it's fun to watch him shoot from wherever?
I think just growing up, you know, like when I was really, really young, you weren't really seeing too many people shoot the 3-ball like that. You know, you had guys like Ray Allen and Kyle Korver, J.J. Redick, guys that I still watch. Honestly, I love watching J.J. Redick and Kyle Korver. But Curry, he kind of just took it and made it like something different. Like, now you're not just seeing him come off a screen, off ball to shoot. Now you're seeing him doing it off the dribble in just so many different ways. So I just wanted to pick up on it, and even watching him be one of the first guys shooting it from his hip, you know. And at that time, I didn't have the strength to shoot over my head, so that's kind of how I started shooting too. And so he's the reason why, you know, I love shooting 3-ball, and he's generational, man. He's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, he's the GOAT shooter for a reason, and you know, you watch him growing up and the baggy jersey, right? He's so skinny. He's dealing with the physicality, and we saw kind of like one of the aspects of his game in this clip. Where one of the things that he's really good at, Steph, is that he's willing to go set screens for other players, right? Like, he's willing to get fit. He's always been that way, even though he's, you know, you're a little stronger than he was, right? But like setting that screen and like staying involved in the action and getting other guys open and being a decoy, like how important is that?
That's just part of understanding your gravity as a shooter, which I feel like he does a great job of that he knows anytime he sets a screen for somebody else, he's putting the defense in a dilemma, because he's going to get another guy open or he's going to get himself open. And so that's something I had to figure out. Like if I set a good screen for somebody, either they're gonna get a good look or I'm gonna get a good look, because the defense is not gonna know whether to switch or stay with their own. There's gonna be miscommunication. So you got to be willing to do those things.
Yeah, and especially at the next level when you're coming in, you're playing a role.
Yep.
Those are the little things that earn the trust of the coaching staff, right? Now, one of the guys who I think you can play a similar role to at the next level is a guy like Desmond Bane, who was another guy who had a long college career, right? What do you like about this action here?
I love it. It's actually something that we worked on today, actually. So Lakers call it Seattle Dud, but great action because you're setting it's like a fake screen for job, but it can be a real action if they choose to set a real screen. Obviously, the defense is going to have to choose if they want to stay or switch, and Ja Morant is obviously really good attacking the rim. So that's one play out of maybe 3 options that you can get out of this. But obviously, he just slides out of it, and then Zach Edey sets a really good screen. I like how Desmond kind of relaxes for a bit just to make Edwards kind of think nothing's going to happen, and then out of nowhere he just sprints off of it really fast. So that's definitely something that you got to learn to be able to free yourself up even more.
Yeah, and I like the point you made about kind of that pause right here, right, where Ant has got to be like, all right, I can relax. He's probably trying to space the floor. Exactly. He's going to stay stationary, and then shooting out, playing at different paces. A lot of people talk about pace when it comes to like running ball screens, playing with the ball in your hand, but there's a pace to that off-ball movement, right? And Desmond is really good at that, but this is, I think, a similar action, right? So take me through this one.
Yeah, so here it's just wide triple. It's kind of a fake action right here, but I feel like Corey did a great job of setting that screen. But honestly, right here, I'm just basically relaxing, trying to make it known that, I'm not really up so much. And then out of nowhere, you just got to, like I said, you got to come off that with speed and be ready to shoot. Guys are going to be chasing that down all the time, so you got to give your coaches the confidence that anytime they run something for you, you're going to get a good look.
And the footwork in this one is really smooth, right? So
just 1-2 into it.
Right, really smooth. I know we've talked in the past, like this is later in the season, obviously. So like, is that something you felt yourself getting more comfortable with as the year went along?
Yeah, it's something that I worked on a lot. I used to be a hop into it guy, just because it's really hard to, with all your momentum going one way, to kind of stop in 1-2 and go straight into your shot. So that's something with time, I got more comfortable with, and I started to realize that I got to get my shot off faster. Guys are really chasing me down.
Yeah.
So something I had to learn and adjust to, and it's been going great. I'm loving it.
I think you look at a lot of actions, that one you're going right. Here we see a guy like Quentin Grimes who, probably similar build, does a lot of things similar to you here. What do you like about this play?
Yeah, great action, something that a lot of teams in the NBA use. And obviously, I think right here he's just reading he's reading his defender, but he's also reading Kuzma. And so he's seeing if his guy is off of him, he's just gonna slip out of that screen. But I'm sure that if his guy stayed more attached, he probably is gonna set that screen.
Right.
And obviously, kind of puts Kuzma in a dilemma. What is he going to do? Is he going to switch, stay with his? Obviously, Oubre is coming off, great athlete, so if you set a good screen, that might be a lob or a dunk. And obviously, 2 might go with you. So it's just too many reads that you can make off of this, whether you want to set the screen, like I said, and make sure that somebody else gets a bucket, or if not, you slip out of it. And you just got to be ready to hit that shot. Yeah,
and it really puts the defense in a tough situation. It's such a simple action, too, right? It's so simple. Because even like Bobby Portis here, like he's just kind of in no man's land, not making an impact.
Something that teams did a lot with me now is when I'm coming off Bobby, the guy guarding the big, they might hedge out a little bit, and now all of a sudden you got him cutting, and it's another option. So
exactly,
it's just so many things that can happen. You just got to be able to read the defense.
And it's all just that off-ball movement. And here, we see something similar, another blob for you, and you're running off that screen, and it's same kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
Like the big is drop back as you come off, and even if you give this to Amari, and I know you were working with those little like fake jumpers, the little dump offs, right? Like if you were to get, Amari's so good at those handoffs. Now you're coming back, right? Like, and those are the things you worked at.
He's great at that.
But here, cash, right?
Yeah, I think it's just understanding the defense too. Like obviously, I'm probably not going to have guys that are smaller than me guarding me at the next level. So anytime I do have the opportunity to have one of those guys guarding me, it's probably going to go straight up. But it's like you said, you know, taller, bigger, faster defender, you're probably going to have to dump that off and get into another action. So just understanding the defense, who's guarding you, and what they're trying to do.
Right, and all those different actions and options that you have. Because these are the actions that are so dangerous. It's one thing to be a stationary shooter. It's another thing to be able to play off of this stuff.
Yes.
And, you know, here we got a DHO option for you now. You know, you were operating, you know, without the ball and going right into your jumper. And these zoom, you know, handoffs are big actions. So take me through here. What are you reading from the defense here?
Yeah, basketball is a game of reads. So obviously you're coming off the action, but you don't know what you're going to do until you actually get the ball, you see what the defense is doing. Obviously, it was kind of a soft switch, and I saw right away that he's staying back. And so for me, that's a shot every time. You know, if he comes up, then it's time for another read. Maybe go by him, make a play to the corner. You never know. You know, you're just reading the defense, like I said.
Yeah, and I mean, did you feel like in situations like this that whenever somebody was a little bit late on this, like on either a soft switch or kind of like a halfway hedge, like you let it fly?
Right away. That was my first thought, because next time around, you know, something different is going to happen. You know, next time around, they're going to put more emphasis on when he comes off the handoff, you know, be more attached. And so off of that, you know, more options come into play. So just making sure that anytime there's a little mistake, you make him pay for it. 100%.
I think here, you know, we kind of see what it kind of looks like when guys do play it a little bit different, right? Because now you're getting downhill.
He's up a little bit now,
right? So take me through this one.
Yeah, so same thing, you know, right away, great screen from Trent Noah. So I know that my guys, obviously, he's gonna fight over, you know, he's gonna fight over, and he's really good at doing that actually. And this is where, you know, being skinny, coming off the screen comes into play. You want to come off at an angle where he can't get back in front of you. And so that's something I think I did well on this play. And obviously Amari did a great job rolling. So now it's just 2-on-1 situation. And second by second, you're just waiting to see what the big man is doing. You know, I'm seeing, is he going to stay back? I might get a floater. Is he going to come up? And it's going to be a lob. So you just got to read him. Yeah,
so when you're receiving the ball, like right here, are you kind of just like, all right, how is this big playing me? And he's just on his toes, right?
Yeah, right away, I feel like I have my man beat. So I'm not too worried about him. You know, obviously, like I said, coming off tight is what changes everything. You know, if I give him some space to kind of get himself through, that's going to make things really hard. So once I see that he's beat, I'm just reading number 22. You know, whatever he does, I have an answer for it. You know, so like I said, I feel like I have a good floater, I have a good touch around the rim. So if he stays back, then I feel like, you know, I have a great floater that he can't get to. And on this situation, he came up a little bit, and that's where he threw the lob.
Yeah, and you have that like elbow pull up too, right? So like if he's back, like you can pull from there, right?
That's just about reading your man and where
he's chasing.
Exactly.
Right,
so
that rear contest. You feel him on your back a little bit.
That pull up might give him a chance to rear view contest that or even block it. So I think a floater is, you know, faster and more effective, but obviously the lob was the play to make in this situation.
Yeah, and another Kentucky guy who's excellent at this is Manuel Quickly, right? Like, you know, obviously different kind of player. He's a little smaller, you know, more of like a combo-y guard, but he lives off those and those little floaters, and that opens up those lobs. Trae Young, again, another guy who is so good at
they're
that
really
action.
good at using, you know, their floaters to give lobs as well, you know.
Yes.
A lot of times the defense doesn't know if it's going to be a lob or a floater, so that's kind of where you got to trick the defense a little bit.
And like you said, you have that float game, and here it is right here, right? You know, again, like Illinois is a team who played in this drop, and Avicic is, you know, not necessarily the most aggressive defender, right? So take me through like kind of your thought process on dropping this lob in here.
Same thing, you know, it's just a race, and once I feel like I got him beat, it's just about getting him to an angle where he can't get back into the play. So I know if I stop and settle for a three-pointer, he's gonna have a good contest, you know. So it's just about getting him in the angle where he can't contest it. I feel like I got him beat, and I feel like, you know, Amari didn't really roll this time, so it kind of takes away the lob option.
Right.
But like you said, you know, they're in a job, they're kind of staying back, and so I feel comfortable, you know, taking that floater, that jump shot. And, you know, like I said earlier, the jump shot, it's kind of it's a good option, but you kind of just got to read it because obviously he's behind me. He can,
right.
wherever you contest that, he can maybe block it.
And he's good at that.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, you had him running through the ringer though.
Yeah,
like, oh, get ready.
yeah.
He's running through screens.
Yeah, I feel like at some point, you know, they're gonna die out. So
yeah.
it's just about throughout the course of the game, staying conditioned and, you know, moving without the ball. And obviously here, that's what happened.
Yeah, and you know, if he does step up here, like you even got the corner.
Yeah.
You know, because I think that's Humrick House, like you know, helping off strong corner.
Exactly.
You know,
it's not
kind of
really
defensive
there.
rule.
Exactly.
Number one.
Exactly.
But you drop in that floater, nice touch there. You know, we were talking about all the different options, right? Again, back to Illinois. Here on this one.
Exactly, yeah. So
now,
this is where...
That's a layup for you,
so
right?
This is where I'm reading him and I'm seeing he's beat. You know, there's no way he can get back to it or recover. So this is where I feel like the mid-range is a great option. And obviously, too, you don't want to get too deep. You know, obviously there's a big dude down there in the league that's going to be 7-footers that are going to weigh a lot, and they're really good at protecting the rim. So you got to be able to hit down those shots. Yeah,
and Merez is a little bit better, more aggressive as a shot blocker, but that's too much space. I mean, look at where you're literally at the nail right here, right?
Exactly. And that's
were you 90% from the free throw line?
92.
92, yeah. Okay. My bad.
Nah, you're good.
Hey, shout out to Mari on this. Look at that screen.
Great screen.
Bam.
Great screen, for sure. And you gotta let him know. You know, I tell him every time he sets a good one, yo, great screen, because you know it makes him want to keep doing it. So
yes,
you obviously got to give him the credit when credit is due. But obviously, like I was about to say, if he comes up, this is just another read for another option, you know. So I might drive by him.
Okay, so if he's up here.
Yeah, if he all the way down there, I mean, I feel like obviously that pull up is every time.
Yeah,
but if not, if he comes up a little bit, it might be a drive by, or I know that if Amari sees that his guy comes up too much, then I know he's gonna roll every time. So that's where the lob or bounce pass comes into play as well.
Right, option after option, simple
every time.
No dribbles, like you know. I think that's kind of the cool thing about guys who are comfortable moving off the ball, but can also play with the ball a little bit, you know, in their hands, that you can make those decisions. But
I feel like it's all about, you know, being simple and effective. You know, there's a lot of guys that they can come off of it and do all this, you know, but sometimes you don't need all that, you know. It's all about making 1 or 2 dribbles, get to your spot, go up. If not, make a read for another teammate. Yeah. Just keeping it simple.
0.5 basketball, right? No ball stopping,
facts,
right?
Facts.
Yeah, 100%. That's the way that teams want to play right now, right? So I think that's important. Now, I want to kind of pick your brain on this one here, because space creation is a big term in the scouting world. Yeah. And, you know, we talk about the not dribbling the air out of the ball and this and that. You are creating space here in this triple threat. You're not even using a dribble.
You can make a play without a dribble.
Yeah.
You can make a play without a dribble. So it's just about keeping the defense on their heels and, you know, being as efficient with the ball as possible. So I feel like if I can give myself a look without even taking a dribble, then when I do take a dribble, you know, I'm just going to have more space. So I'm kind of just reading him, and I'm seeing that he's kind of dancing a little bit, and he's kind of going for everything. So now I'm just trying to get him in a position where I'm going to get him good one time, get him leaning, and then I'm going to take a dribble to create more space for a shot.
So where does kind of like this come from, where a lot of players, their first instinct when they get the ball is to immediately put the ball on the floor? Is that something that like you've just kind of had with you since your youth career, or is this something you've kind of developed in as you matured?
It's like you said, you know, a lot of times when you get the ball, you kind of just want to go, you know, so it's just about learning to be patient with it. And I study a lot of guys, so this is where PG comes into play.
Okay.
He's unbelievable with the ball, you know, just using his triple threat and using it to his advantage. And he's somebody that you see when he gets the ball, he's not just going right away. You know, he's going to take his time. He's going to see where your feet are. He might attack the top foot. You know, he's gonna make a lot of reads out of it.
Right.
So just got to be able to watch those guys and see why they're good at what they do.
So like, you know, we talked about what shooters you like. So who are the guys that are like, you know, not shooters, players that you watch where you're like, I don't want to just limit myself to be, I know I can shoot, I know that's a role I can play, but like,
well, a lot of these guys though, they are shooters though.
Oh, well, PG's got a strap. Exactly. He got a strap
so
for
that's
sure.
Why they're just a shooter in their own way. You know? So I feel like a lot of these guys and like to be able to make these plays, you got to be able to shoot because they got to respect it. So PG, D-Book, those are guys I love. But even D-Book coming out of college, he was just a sniper. And then he kind of used that to evolve into another player.
when he was at Kentucky, he barely got to the rim, right? He played, you know, kind of a similar role a little bit. Obviously, your game is a little more nuanced because you're more experienced. But yeah, I think that's a great example of somebody who's kind of developed and kind of had those skills,
very
right?
Simple, you know, catch and shoot, 1 dribble, 2 dribble pull-ups, and then you kind of just see how he evolves out of that, and he starts to read the floor differently, and he sees how guys are guarding him and what he has to do to combat that. And you know, you just with time, you just want to, you know, evolve and grow your game as much as possible.
Now, Kentucky has had a few pros come through the program, you know.
Just a few.
Just a few. Are there any guys who like have come through, come back to school that are, you know, whether they're in the league or, you know, they played in the league, they retired, whatever, who like you've kind of come through and picked their brain and took stuff from?
Unfortunately, not much, but I did spend some time with Eric Bledsoe.
Okay.
And obviously, he's not somebody that
Baby LeBron?
Yeah, he's not somebody that, you know, plays my position
right.
or was known as a shooter. But like you said, you try to pick up anything from anybody, and he's somebody that he's really, really good at using his body, and that's something that I struggled at. So I kind of just want to learn. And his biggest thing is just, you know, making sure that you're strong with your base. And obviously, he's a tank, man. He's strong, and his legs are super strong.
Yeah.
But one thing you see about him is that his base is super strong and fast. So, you know, he's just playing at his level. And once he gets to the rim, he's going to bump you with a good old shoulder. You know what I'm saying? He's going to wait for you to jump her and make a play out of that. So just anything I can learn from anybody, so it's going to be a plus for me.
For sure. I mean, at the next level, like, I think when I see NBA games up close sometimes, and then you compare it to the college game, where obviously, especially now with NIL, like guys coming back to school, there are a lot of big physical guys. You know, look at Amari, he's
huge,
jacked out of his mind. But like seeing guys like Julius Randle and James Harden and that physicality, and then now in the playoffs, where it gets ramped up even more. Have you been watching any of that? Yeah. What have you kind of been taking from the playoffs?
The Knicks, the physicality. The Knicks Pistons series was unbelievable.
Yeah.
Like, but it's crazy just seeing their success, and obviously I'm a New York guy, so it puts the city on fire. But physicality is, you know, it's a different level because obviously the games mean a lot more.
Right.
And, you know, they're doing it for not just them, for the fans and everything, but physicality is important, and, you know, they got to play guys that are going to be willing to make those plays. You know, they're going to come out, they're going to play hard and make those hustle plays and everything. Hustle plays are everything in the playoffs right now. And you kind of just been seeing that on full display in these playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the Knicks, you know, talking about the Knicks, you know, we're a couple of New York guys here talking some hoops. Like Josh Hart, man, like, you know, the physicality, he's coming in there, making those hustle plays that you're talking about, playing with you know, that, I mean, he's kind of always playing like that, but like...
He's been a difference maker for them, man.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, looking at the Knicks too, because you're going to have to deal with these guys on a nightly basis. You look at Mikal Bridges and OG Anunoby, and then, you know, the Boston side, you got Jalen and Tatum, like that length and, you know, the physicality that those guys play with, you know, are those things that you're watching like, all right, like, if I was in this scenario, like, how am I freeing myself up when I got Mikal Bridges, whose arms go on forever? You know, what are you kind of like looking at from that angle?
I think that's when, like, we talk about all the fakes, you know, like eye fakes, ball fakes, shot fakes, just anything you can use to, you know, kind of get the defense to think one thing and you do the other, you know. So using all your fakes. Biggest thing for me this summer has been being well conditioned, so I feel like I can really outrun anybody right now. So just making sure that I'm moving, you know, as a defender. Probably the worst thing you want to go up against is somebody that's constantly moving. You know?
Right.
That's why guys hate guarding Curry, because he's just going to tire you to death and then he's going to hit a shot at the end.
Yeah, I think you see that in like the Denver series a little bit too. Like these like OKC having to play in that altitude and wearing down a little bit, right? But that conditioning. Yeah, the conditioning along with the physicality, I think that's a great point.
For sure.
All right, now, with this clip, right, you know, we've been seeing you move off the ball, but you got a little bit of sauce with it. You're a New York guy, like, you know, you know, how much did that New York upbringing kind of go into, you know, the wiggle and the handle that you got?
It's everything, man. I feel like it's something that a lot of people really don't know about me, that I can, like, dribble the ball really well. And so it kind of catches guys by surprise, because when you think of a shooter, you know, you're thinking of somebody that's just catch and shoot, they're running around to shoot. But I feel like, you know, I can do it in every way. So definitely growing up in New York, that's something I was taught my whole life, you know. All the drills would be all these dribbling drills and stuff. And so it's carried with me, and I feel like it's really helped me. You know, it's when guys actually play up and feel like, oh, he's just a shooter. You know,
right.
He can't put the ball on the ground. But I feel like, you know, I can sauce you up a little bit too.
Well, that's the next level, right? Because you look at Klay, right? He 61 points, whatever, 11 dribbles, whatever it was, right? But like, Klay doesn't turn into a pumpkin when he has the ball in his hand, right? Like, he might not be spamming the ball handling, but that's kind of the next level.
Respect it.
100%. So, this is a pretty big moment, tight game, 4 minutes left in the game, big three. Take me through this possession.
Yeah, so this is just feeling the moment. You know, it kind of felt like our offense was a little stagnant, and we had a couple plays where we weren't really getting much, and so I kind of just felt like I had to get in that mode, you know, to get a good shot from my team. And obviously, like you said, it's a big game. You know, I was playing against Tennessee at home, and the environment was great, and I'm coming off this handoff, and as soon as I see that it's kind of a soft switch, and he's not playing me all the way up, I feel like I can get to a good spot and just get in rhythm a little bit and just go up to my shot.
Yeah, talk about the environment. I mean, SEC, Rupp Arena, big shot, money, put your team up one. Yeah. What's that environment like right now? You see everybody's on their feet. Like, what does that energy bring to the game in a spot like this?
It feels great. I feel like, you know, it's a big difference maker when you do have that. And I feel like with BBN, you know, we had it the whole year, whether it was home or away, like they showed up. So they really came through for us. But, you know, I feel like I'm a good player, you know, under pressure. And I feel like this was a big moment for us. And I feel like it's something I just had to do at the time.
Yeah, and again, it goes into that creativity that you have with your ball handling. You know, here's another one. Yeah. I don't know. You remember this play?
Yeah. Okay. It's probably the one that my teammates have talked the most about.
Yeah. You're deep in your bag here. Take me through this one.
They said as soon as I started skipping, they knew I was over.
That's the tell, right? Yeah.
They've seen it in practice a couple times, but just backdoor cut. Was trying to get a layup.
Easy one.
Obviously, they stopped me. And I think I just hit like maybe 2 threes before this, so I was really kind of feeling it a little bit. But I saw that once I brought the ball up and like nobody was trying to get into action, they kind of just spaced it off. I was like, this is a whole lot of space to work with. And the time was running out a little bit, so just had to get into the bag. And obviously, like I said, I'm just reading the defense the whole time. So any movement he makes, I'm gonna just, you know, counter that and make him pay for it.
Yeah, and you like the snatch back, right?
I do.
Yeah.
I feel like it's a great option. Another thing from PG, because he talked a lot about how when you snatch, you obviously got the shot. If not, you can go, you can switch. So it's just a whole bunch of things you can do out of it.
Yeah, this is a tough shot, man. And like you said, a little saucy here. I mean, he's biting, right?
He is.
He's trying to play you up. I credit to him on that. So, you know, we've seen you as a shooter with the ball, without the ball, off ball movement, but you're not just a guy who can make guys pay as a shooter. That gravity that you have, right? These guys are trying to anticipate. How am I going to be able to chase over a screen and get a rear contest or whatever? Like, how do you leverage that now to throw them off their game and get easy stuff at the rim?
So this right here, this is something I'm like super, super proud of, honestly, of myself. Because I feel like my time in Dayton, I was a really bad cutter. Like, I did not have like the right instincts for it. I was just not, you know, really doing much outside of shooting threes and shooting middies and stuff like that. And I feel like my time in Kentucky,
shot 50% your last year.
I mean, it worked out pretty well. But you know, obviously you gotta grow. You gotta
100%.
Be better at other things. So I feel like this right here just made me an even better shooter because now they gotta respect me as a cutter as well. And obviously in the next level, it's super important to be a good cutter too. So it's something I credit myself and my coaches, you know, for my time in Kentucky and how much they helped me with it. And I feel like, you know, these plays like this right here kind of just open up everything for me.
So what kind of stuff were they doing with you that kind of helped you improve in this game? Because a lot of cutting, like, you know, is like kind of feel and reading the game, right? But so was it like more film? Was it drills?
It was a lot of both.
Okay.
But for me, it was just a lot about learning my defense and how they're guarding me and just seeing like little things. Like I remember they would tell me anytime I see the back of somebody's head, just cut, you know? And so as a player in these games, I'm kind of just looking for that, you know. As soon as I see it, I'm going. And obviously we got a great passer in Amari Williams and a whole bunch of other dudes that they're going to find you. So it's just about doing it. And obviously we went, if you know Mark Pope's system, it's a lot of cutting.
Yep.
A lot of cutting. It's so much fun, but it's a lot of cutting. So you got to be able to do it, and he puts you through it a lot, and I feel like it's helped me so much.
I think like the knock on you, right, is like you have good percentages at the rim, but kind of like the willingness to touch paint, right? Like, is that something that you're in your head? Like, all right, I got the float game, I got the pull ups, right? If I can backdoor somebody, right? Nobody was waiting in the rim at the last clip, but how are you? We talk about physicality, you know, getting to the rim and like dipping that shoulder like Bledsoe, right? Like, so here, what would you do differently on this attack?
Yeah, so for sure, first, there's two things. Obviously, probably use my body a lot better, which is, I'm really happy that you showed this, because this is something that we work on so much throughout this process, like me and Zach. So I'm really happy on how much comfortable I feel in these situations. But also, you know, playing off two helps out a lot. You know, not limiting yourself to, oh, I jumped and now I have to do something in the air, you know. So playing off two. But I think the biggest thing right here is making sure I get myself a driving line, you know, making sure that I get him out the picture and maybe use the rim to my advantage, to where if he does shot a block, his hand is going to end up hitting the rim, you know. So kind of just using that as more help. But like I said, you know, playing off two as well. Yeah,
and you know, let's keep it New York. A couple of New York guys here. Like Jalen Brunson is, right? He's like the king of playing off two, and I don't even know if he is 6 feet tall, right? But like
the man doesn't get blocked because, you know, he's sure of what he does, and I'm sure he works on it a lot. But you know, playing off two kind of just helps you be able to make decisions without having to do them in the air.
Stay
and stuff like that.
Stay balanced, right? You know, you're not like, all right, I left my feet, now I kind of have to make a decision quick.
Just pass it up.
Right. If somebody to ask me like, what's your most underrated skill, I would say that it's your passing.
I'd agree.
Because if you are just somebody on spreadsheet FC here, and you're just looking at the raw numbers, right? Pretty low assist percentage. But good assist to turnover ratio. I think 3-to-1 assist to turnover ratio, going back to your decision making. But you can really pass the rock, and you do some pretty nuanced stuff here. So take me through you operating here, because you're gonna see a lot of hard hedges with the ball. They're not trying to let you get a clean look at a three. So when you see guys who are coming at you like this, what are you reading in this particular situation?
So the biggest thing in this situation is just being patient. And a lot of times when you get doubled, people just pick up the ball right away, you know, and that kind of allows the defense to, you know, kind of make your space smaller. You know, they're able to get up on you, get a jump ball or something like that. So the biggest thing is just being patient, kind of stay with your dribble. And then right away, I'm seeing AC is obviously wide open, but I'm reading everybody behind him. So it's kind of risky to make that pass knowing that two people are there and they could just come off and, you know, make a play. So that's where I use my ball fakes. And the biggest thing was ball fake to AC, and then once I see
him jumping,
guys shift over, it's going to Lamont. Or vice versa, you know, it also could have been ball fake to Lamont and then pass it to AC. So just got to be able to make the reads on the fly. Yeah,
I think, you know, manipulating a defense sometimes, like instead of being reactionary, is important. And it's so simple, right? It's like a thing that you try to teach middle school, high school kids, right? But like, but just that little to make them bite. But really great read there. And then, you know, another one, a little saucy there with the handle. This is a tough pass, because this is like, you know,
it's that Luka right here.
You've been training with Yegor. You know, this is that Yegor skip, right? So take me through this one and what you're looking at here.
Yeah, so I'm coming off the screen, obviously hard hedge, and my first look is BG at the rim. Right away, because obviously his man came to me. But once I see, you know, like most teams, they're not gonna let anybody roll on their own. So he came up, took the paint away, took away BG, and so the automatic read is a skip, and just got to be able to deliver it on time and on target.
Yeah, and again, like that's those next level reads that, like, again, they're hard to get guys to see that. You know, you being, 6'7", how much does, your height help you kind of see all of your options on the floor?
A lot. It's something I feel like I use to my advantage a lot because, at my height, I'm able to see the floor. So just not limiting myself to, making the simple reads, I could take my time and, really make the right read, which is obviously the most important thing. So just making sure that I keep my head up, stay patient, like I said, don't just pick up the ball right away and, just make the right read.
Yeah, and that's a great read, and that's a read that they try to teach at the NBA level because it opens up so much. All right, we gotta you gotta walk me through this one because again, man, you got your stats don't tell the story. Again, you tell it's one more safe pass. You tried saying like you don't make a lot of crazy decisions. This is a crazy read, and there's a lot of nuance in it. It's reactionary, but also you're making a smart decision with it. So take me through this one.
Yeah, this is what happens when I feel like you're aggressive. Obviously, I'm coming off, I'm trying to get a layup. I feel like it was a really good cut. And then last second, obviously somebody stepped up, and now you just got to make the right read.
Right.
So a lot of times when you are attacking the paint, everybody teaches, hit the corner, hit the corner.
Right. So we pause it right here. He's splitting.
Exactly. So, but obviously his momentum right now is going to the corner because him, just like everybody else, they all know 8 out of 10 times that ball is going to go to the corner.
Right.
So now I'm just reading fears the whole time, and I'm just seeing where his momentum is going, which is the play to make. So I kind of like fake towards the corner.
Yeah,
and he's
and like you said, he's shifting towards Ortega with the left.
You got to be able to do it both hands, man.
On a rope, man. That's jump pads, looking like another guy in the playoffs, Tyrese Halliburton. So we're talking about, all right, you watch all these guys, shooters. We talked about PG from, again, he's a shooter. We're not trying to limit him. Great, great,
for sure.
But who are the passers that you watch that, you enjoy and you take certain things from?
I'd say Luka for sure, just because he's somebody, he's also tall. But he's also not the fastest, I don't feel like I'm the fastest guy on the floor a lot of times. And he kind of just plays at his own pace, and he's really patient. He's somebody that probably in the league gets doubled the most, gets hedged on the most. Yeah. And so just being able to see what reads he makes out of that. And a lot of times he's really good at skipping the ball, using his eyes, faking, so that's something I've tried to pick on a lot. Yeah,
the looking guys off with your eyes, another really underrated skill, right? Last clip here on the offensive side of the ball. We saw you get saucy with the ball in your hand, ISO. Similar situation here, but this time you're getting downhill. So take me through the decision-making process and what's different about this one versus where you were pulling up from the perimeter.
So biggest difference is, I came off and they switched. The biggest difference is he's actually playing me up. He's taking the shot away. He understands, like, okay, he can shoot from out there. So he's playing up, and once I see a big, come up on me, I'm pretty comfortable and confident with my first step and getting to the rim. So I'm just, a lot of times, I'm probably not going to go up and, try to score a layup on somebody,
multiple guys at the rim, right?
Yeah, exactly. So I'm just thinking right away, like, let me make a play for my teammate. I come down and I see that obviously he's jumping because that's what he's really good at, contesting shots. Right. But also 15 comes over and he's trying to contest as well, and that just leaves Amari wide open at the rim.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of debate about like jump passing.
Yeah.
Right.
I like it. Yeah. I really feel like it's a good tool if you know how to use it. Obviously, a lot of people get in the air and kind of freak out, don't know what to do. But I feel like if you go with a purpose and intention, then it's a good option.
Right. And here, there's purpose and intention, because if you're not jumping up to make it seem like you're actually going to put a shot up, he doesn't have to bite, right? Yeah. And that's where the drop-off comes off. And great dime. Like I said, you can make dimes. So what is it about, was it like you were just playing your role and there's so much movement and like, because you clearly have the skills to kind of play with the ball in your hands and make high leverage decisions. So what do you think it was of that you just didn't do it all that often?
I think it's just about understanding your role as a player as well. There was also a lot of times where that's not necessarily what my team needed. They might have needed me to come off the bench and, be able to hit shots, come off actions, be able to hit shots, play defense, stuff like that. And then obviously, when we had some injuries and guys gone down, that's just an opportunity to, evolve as a player and do more stuff. And obviously they needed a little bit more out of me. So second half of the season, they kind of needed me to put the ball down, come off some pick and rolls and do more things. So it's just about what the team needs, what the coaches need, and being able to provide that for the team.
Yeah, and at the next level, that's what it's all about, right? You look at, we saw some Quentin Grimes clips. You saw the type of player that he was in, a few of his first stops in the league. And then, at the second half of the year, he goes to Philly. And now all of a sudden, instead of being the guy who's kind of spacing or playing off movement, now he's getting the opportunity. His team needs him to play with the ball in his hands, and now he's doing a lot of that stuff.
And I think that's a big advantage as a player, something that I feel like I have to my advantage, that I know how to play different roles. I'm not somebody that can only do one thing. I feel like I've been through it all in my college career. I can come off the bench and provide a lot. I can start and provide a lot. So it's just about, having that experience and being able to be a multi-dimensional player.
Yeah, for sure. Now, I want to kind of transition to the defensive side of the ball. You said that that's the area of your game that you kind of want to improve on the most. Again, you look at some of the stats, maybe not as disruptive as you want a wing to be. Your blocks, you pretty good shot blocker, I think. But I want to take you through some defensive possessions and pick your brain, because I think defense is hard to judge mainly on stats a lot of time, because it seemed like, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, one of the hardest things to do as a scout for me is, without knowing what your goal is defensively, it's hard to definitively say right or wrong. So I want to start out here. It seemed like you guys iced a lot on the sidelines. So here you got another New Yorker, another New York guy, quick, shifty with the ball in his hands, right? But I think you do a good job here kind of cutting off his dribble penetration and kind of pinning him to those sidelines and making him come out before this switch. So when you have to guard a small guard like that, and you said you're maybe not the quickest guy, what are you trying to do in this situation?
Yeah, so right here, obviously we're in the ice, and this is something that a lot of teams in the NBA do, and I feel really comfortable getting the ice. I feel like I'm really good at it. So it's just knowing, if I got a smaller guy that I'm guarding, using my length a lot more. And so, kind of just opening up a little bit and understanding angles,
Right.
Obviously, I'm trying to get him in an angle to where he can't come off the middle of the floor. And I feel like, it worked out pretty well.
Yeah. And, what I like about this possession and why I wanted to start here is because I feel like when you are on the ball and you're actually right here, you're in your stance, you're deep in your stance, and you're in his shirt right now, you can slide laterally, right? You can move. And you're really forcing him right into the help. I mean, Amari kind of, he's a little out of,
we're still there,
but he's there. And then again, here.
It's also understanding, who you're playing against. Big thing for us, we had Ziegler rules. He was really good at playmaking.
Right.
And so it's just about getting him, once you get him to drive, kind of everybody else fan out, So we didn't want too many people coming and helping, because then you're just allowing
he'll drop
him
off
to play to his strength, So it's kind of just knowing that, he's not the biggest guy on the court, so we're able to contest that late, but we don't need any extra help.
Got you. Now, on this one, and this is where I feel like you could see kind of the difference in how you approach it, but I want to kind of get your perspective on it and what the goal is of the defense here. You're up top here, right? You're going to switch, and you could see the room you're giving him, the space, and you're playing flat, right? So when you are at the point of attack and you're positioned here at the top of the key, what was the goal of Kentucky at this part of where they are in their offense?
So biggest thing was two things. First, we wanted to encourage him to shoot that shot. We felt more confident with him shooting that shot than obviously him taking it off the bounce. And then, like I said earlier, we didn't want anybody helping. So it was kind of, if you drive, try to contest it late, make it a hard shot.
Just make it a hard shot for him. So you're kind of all right, we're trying to bait him into a jumper, but then
also is you're in the middle of the floor. Something really fast, and you don't really know what side to send him, because there's not really much help here. Obviously, with the type of player he is, you don't want to provide too much help, so you kind of just got to sit down and guard, and like I said, just try to make it tough for him.
Yeah, so obviously when you're you know, in an ice and you're playing on the sidelines, it's like, okay, I know how to position, right?
Yeah.
So
middle of the floor is a little bit hard.
When you're in the middle of the floor, is Coach Pope kind of like, we're playing that flat and kind of whatever way.
Play it flat, unless, you know, it's an overloaded side or something, you have more help on one side, obviously send him there. But in this situation, there wasn't really, they did a good job of spacing the floor to where there wasn't really any chance to have any help in the wings or anybody digging in a little bit or anything. So they kind of just set everybody flat and, you know, let him go to work.
So if you had to approach this one differently, you got this one back,
definitely,
what would you do to
send him one direction?
Send him one direction?
Yeah. Not stay flat on it. Probably send him, obviously, to his left, but I'd be more prepared for it. So,
right.
Yeah, just send him one direction.
Yeah. And again, I think, you know, you're really good with these ices, and because you can see you get into the ball in these scenarios, and now you're playing Auburn here. Chad Baker-Mazara is a good scorer, right? I love this possession just because there's a disruption, there's anticipation on the shot contest. You know, you're getting into them. So do you feel a difference in how guys have to react when you're dictating it defensively versus when you're letting the offense kind of make that decision?
That's something I really want to take pride in the second half of the season, was just being more disruptive. So a big thing for me was kind of trying to challenge every little pass, you know, little things like that. Obviously, it slows them down a little bit. So once you're able to do that, then it gives you a better chance to get into the ice. And then once you get in the ice, you just gotta keep him there, and obviously, you know, force him to do something that he doesn't want to do. Yeah.
And I mean, takes probably the worst shot in basketball, right? But you force him into that position. So on this one now, you know, one of the things you got to deal with, we saw how good you are at making guys deal with navigating screens, right? So on this one, I actually think you do a good job. He makes a tough shot, right? Like the NBA level guys are going to make tough shots, I think, probably.
This was probably, let me see that again.
Yeah.
So first he did a good job of, you know, coming off the action, slowing me down a little bit. And then, we got to get that iced. And in the middle of the floor, we call it a weak.
Yep.
Which is, you know, send him to the
weak
left
hand.
Yeah, exactly. Which is
or his right
strong
hand
side, but we were still.
So you're still sending him to his left. Okay.
And obviously, you just want to get a good contest, but that's a hell of a shot.
Yeah, there's a great defense. We see you again with the rear contest here, getting back in the play. With a shooter like Chaz, like, what are you trying to get him to do?
In the league, everything is rear view contest.
Right.
So just making sure that I'm able to get to the shot somehow. Obviously, it's going to be really hard coming off a double ball screen to get in front of him and contest from the front. So you just want to be able to contest it some way, somehow. And he's a really good shooter. So you got to be able to be there, like I said, some way. For shooters, obviously, like I said, like myself, if I had to guard myself, it'd be pretty tough to, you know, stay in front.
Yeah.
So the biggest thing is you just got to keep pursuing, keep chasing, and contest rear view contest. Obviously, is really hard to concentrate when you have somebody right on the side of you.
Yeah.
So, just got to contest.
Now, again, I think we talked about the importance of physicality, right? You can get this one back. How are you approaching this possession differently here?
Yeah. Well, first, I would have not put myself in foul trouble.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to argue in foul trouble
and
here,
second,
right?
We was also in, I forgot what we called it for this game, but it'd basically be, I'm just coming out to the hedge, and then our big man is coming around to guard him
but
again.
He gets stuck?
Yeah, he got stuck, so probably just meet him with more physicality at first, and not let him get too deep. Obviously, he's really big and tall, so you don't want him to get to those kill zones.
Yeah.
So just try to keep him up, keep him out of it as best as possible.
Yeah. So do you think there's any other way, like, we're still in foul trouble, right? He still gets stuck.
Yeah. Just be more physical at
just
first,
physical,
like I said.
Like kind of bump, create the contact yourself, maybe?
Exactly, because the thing is, with a lot of these guys, you know, they're just like guards. Like, guards want to get to their spots. They're the same thing, you know. Once you get them in the lane and they're in the circle, it's really hard to work with them down there. So you kind of just got to keep them out of there to begin with.
Or even maybe, like, instead of playing it flat, like trying to get to where he's got to kind of go away from the hoop, right?
Make him do something else.
Yeah, 100%. But, you know, I think that's something that is going to be important, because the NBA is big on, like, those switching and those mismatch scenarios. Now, I think, take me through this one. because playing off the ball and making quick decisions is another thing. And in the NBA, like, which I think like you guys ran a lot of movement that was tough to make these decisions too, but it's important to kind of be able to like positionally off the ball make an impact. So what is your responsibility here on this possession, because you got an athletic guy diving to the rim, your man's cutting through? How would you approach this differently?
You got to be in between that. So obviously when the ball moves away from you, you got to move with it. So obviously he's going to the left side, I got to shift over, be under the rim.
Right.
And provide
you
some
got to tag that, right?
Exactly. Especially if they set a back screen there.
Because you kind of chased, you turned your back a little bit.
Exactly, yeah. So you got to be aware of where the ball is at all the time, and also just be in the right position. You know, a lot about defense, especially team defense, is being in the right spots.
Yeah.
So just knowing that if the ball goes away from you, you got to kind of go with it.
Right. And I think that like that's kind of one of the most important things about defense is like being able to play on a string and not have that breakdown and give up those easy buckets, right? So what are your goals the rest of this process as you know you move forward? I mean, you've been working out, you got a big week ahead, so like what how you going to approach the rest of this pre-draft process?
Yeah, just you know, try my best to show other parts of my game. Obviously everybody knows that I'm a good shooter, but I'm trying to show that I'm more than that. You know, obviously put my head down on defense and lock guys up, show that I play with a lot of energy, play hard, and obviously show that I'm in shape as well. You know, offensively, defensively, just show that I can really get up and down and move, and just be a good teammate. At the end of the day, nobody wants to draft somebody that's not a good teammate. You know?
Right.
So I'm trying to show that I am that, and that I will be that.
So what goes into being a good teammate?
Yeah, just making sure that you care and love the people that you're with. You know, that's something that at Kentucky we had a good group that everybody loved each other. And you know, in the course of a season, you're going to go through a lot of ups and downs, and you got to be able to lean on that love for each other to get you through it. Yeah.
So you've been here in LA training for the draft. You've been working out with Yegor Demin. I was talking to him a little bit, and he was saying like, you know, you guys didn't really know each other coming into this scenario, but it's been like a really good experience that you've gotten a chance to know each other, and then you've been able to work out and kind of like, you know, push each other. So what has your experience been like working out with him?
I love that dude, man. It's been great working out with him. Obviously, he's really young, but he's really, really talented. And he's somebody that, you know, we've been pushing each other like a lot. You know, we have the afternoon sessions together, and that's kind of time for us to just talk about how our day went and all that, and how everything's going, and you know, get after it as well. So just having somebody like him who's obviously, you know, in a good position to get things going for himself this next year, and being able to work out with him and just seeing how his mind works and learning from him and him learning from me, it's been a good process. Yeah,
and he said that you guys went bowling. You beat him. He said you got him.
I got him, yeah, but Zach, the trainer, you know, he was the one that really got all of us. So, but we're running back again.
So what has it been like working with Zach, somebody who's, you know, worked with guys at the highest level? And just kind of getting to see him every day. You guys are watching film, right? Like, you know, we got to see that process on the type of actions that he's showing you, things that he thinks that you could thrive in, and then having that kind of translate to the workouts. What has that experience been like?
It's been great because, you know, he's really intentional with everything that he does, from a conditioning standpoint to obviously like the game reps that we put in. He really breaks it down for me and shows me why I'm doing what I'm doing. Yeah. And we go through a lot of film together and see the actions that a lot of teams like to use for their shooters, and just so that I'm ready for it, you know, so that when I do get in those situations, I'm comfortable, you know, taking these shots and making them. And, you know, he's been pushing me. He's been pushing me a lot. You know, my first week here was really, really tough, and we got through it, and now we just going. So he's definitely helped me out a lot, and I'm really appreciative for him.
Yeah. What are kind of like the differences when you're training specifically for something like this with him versus like, you know, what you're training with your team, you know, in college all of these years? Or like, is it like a different kind of mindset?
It's a little different because, you know, you're working more individually for yourself.
Right.
Obviously, when you're working out with the team, it's more about the team.
Yeah.
And so it's just kind of just been me growing, you know, as an individual, as a player on both sides of the ball, and making sure that I'm learning like the right things and I'm doing the right things, you know, even outside of the basketball court, you know, working on my body, eating right, things like that. They're little things, you know, but they help take your game to another level. So just been all invested in it.
Yeah, talk to me about like the little things like eating right, and you know, I heard that, you know, you're on a very like strict diet, and like that's something that like you have really adhered to. Have you felt like that has made like a difference?
Oh,
or
for sure. Yeah, for sure. I mean, I see a difference in my body, and I feel a lot different. You know, I feel a lot better on the court. I'm able to do a lot of things that I wasn't able to do before. I feel more conditioned and shape. I feel lighter, feel stronger. So just a whole bunch of things that, you know, you kind of got to sacrifice a little bit, but, you know, it's all for the better, and I've been all in on it. I'm loving the process. I've been enjoying it, and I feel like it's going to take me a long way.
Yeah, I mean, that's hard when you're out here. You know, I got off the flight and Albert took me to a little taco spot last night and we went ham. So, that dedication, you know, I can appreciate, you know, for sure. Now, Albert and I on our podcast, we have a segment that we end with called Sell Me This Pen. Okay. And, you know, we basically give like a little elevator pitch for whoever it is that we're covering. So today, you're going to do Sell Me This Pen, still unsponsored. Bick it at me. So sell me this pen on Koby Brea, and why should an NBA team invest in you?
I'd say first you have somebody of high character, you know, somebody that's going to be a good locker room person, a good teammate, somebody that's really resilient. You know, they've handled adversity really well, obviously, with my past, going through my college career and even my surgeries and all that. I feel like I've handled everything pretty well. And you're going to have a hard worker. I'm going to be the same person in the gym every day. I'm an everyday person. Somebody that comes in with the right energy, ready to work. And obviously, you know, I'm really confident in myself and my abilities. So just be able to go out there no matter who I'm going up against, no matter what the situation is, you know, I'm going to bring my all and I'm going to be consistent. You know, the biggest thing in this business, in this world, is being consistent. Yeah. And I feel like I'm really that.
Well, Koby, I appreciate you taking the time out of your schedule, man. I know you've been busy and you got some important stuff coming up. Yeah. So coming here and chopping it up with us has been great. So I appreciate you, man.
I appreciate you, man. Thank you.